All right, Adnan. Glad to have you here, man.
Pleasure.
Awesome, man. Well, you're into the sneaker business, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and you basically have a company called Thriller.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so explain to me exactly what that is.
Yeah. So Thriller is an online marketplace to buy and sell sneakers. We function similar to a stock market in the sense that every sneaker sold has a value, and that sneaker value may go up and down. And we sort of act as a control marketplace for people to exchange those sneakers. So you could buy a sneaker or sell a sneaker on Thriller. That's the platform.
So it basically connects to the buyer and the seller.
Yeah, it connects the buyer and the seller.
All right, and I think you have like a way to verify that the buyer or the seller does not
Yes.
sell an unauthentic pair.
Yes.
How does that work?
Yeah,
What is
so
the process?
we what we like to call a semi-control marketplace, which means we leave certain things up to the buyer and the seller, and the rest we take over and we control. So what that means is every sneaker that's sold first comes to us for verification and authentication, and we check and make sure that the item is authentic. We check and make sure that it contains everything it's supposed to contain. And once we verify that, then we ship it off to the buyer and we release funds to the seller. That way, when we're holding both the funds and the sneaker at the same time, we ensure that both parties are protected, and that's how we maintain authenticity.
Amazing. And okay, this all seems complicated in the sense of how the business is run. How did it start? Like,
It started with myself as a collector. I was an avid collector, and at the end of the day, I just didn't have the funds to buy a 5,000 dirham sneaker, and I started reselling. And I was a victim to buying from these overpriced stores and platforms in the US and UK. And eventually, I realized that the Middle East is such an untapped region. I'm sure now you've even seen, if you go to the malls and you'll see like long lines outside the sneaker stores. You know, that just shows you how big the culture is and how much people want limited edition sneakers in not only UAE but Saudi, Kuwait, Bahrain, the whole Middle East region, and no one has ever tapped into it. So that's when I decided that we needed a platform like what we have in the US and UK in the Middle East, and I decided Dubai was the best place to start up something like that.
cool. You just said like you were a collector yourself, right?
Yeah,
What's
still
the
am.
first? What you still?
Yeah.
What's the first pair that you ever bought?
Funny enough, the first pair I ever bought was a very expensive pair. It was the Off-White Jordan 1 Chicago. I think now they're selling for about 60,000 dirhams. So it's quite
So
a valuable
they went up, right?
They went up. I didn't buy them for that price.
All right. Okay. So explain to me, because I'm new to all this. How do you know which pair of sneakers go up in value? What is the things that you're looking at? How do you make a proper investment? Should you wear it? Should you not wear it? Should you just?
Yeah, so I would sorry. I would compare it to we can just cut that. I would compare it to stocks, where certain stocks would go up and down just based on the value of it. So we sort of split up sneakers into three categories. So we have Jordans, which are the biggest, the number one most resold shoe. Then we have Nikes, and then we have Adidas Yeezy. So I would say that almost all Jordan 1s that are sold would hold their value and go up in value, like 95% of them. And the main way is just you'd be in the game. So you'd know, for example, if there's a collaboration between a very influential artist and the Jordan brand, like Travis Scott Jordan or Off-White Jordan, you'd know that sneakers like those are going to be made in a very limited edition quantity. And you'd also want to make sure that you buy as many of those as possible. That way there are less pairs out in the market, so the price goes up. So at the end of the day, it's just like any other market. You need to be an expert in the market. You need to know, you need to have enough knowledge about it. But the sneaker resale market is so big that now there's even websites and apps that help you decide which sneakers will go up in value, by how much they go up in value, how long you should keep them, when you should sell them. And certain sneakers, yes, you do want to keep in like a glass case, lock away.
So you can't wear. It's
Yeah,
not
you
like a
can't wait.
watch that you.
You might sell it 10 years later. Like now, there's a pair of on the marketplace. I checked yesterday. There's a 2000 in the year 2000. Nike SB Dunk was released, and someone kept it in a glass case and didn't touch it.
Yeah.
And now I think it's selling for about 55,000 dirhams.
Wow. All right, so I'm wearing Supreme Air Force Ones, right? Okay, they're battered, so would these go up in value in 10 years if I didn't wear them?
If you didn't wear them, yes, I would think so. Not by much, because at the end of the day, it is Air Force. It falls into the Nike category, but it would go up.
How much, for example, like 25%?
If I had to estimate, yeah, I'd say about 25-50%.
Right, but now they're probably like gonna be 50% worthless.
Yeah, now you probably have to pay someone to take them.
Amazing. All right, and okay, you're still a collector right now.
Yes.
What is the latest one you've bought?
The latest one I bought was the eBay dunk. So eBay, the platform eBay, actually did a collaboration with Nike SB, and they made a very interesting dunk. We'll put a picture up so people can see. But that was the most recent pair I bought.
Cool. And okay, in the marketplace, obviously you have the buying and selling. You basically take a commission as your profit margin, or how does that work?
Yes. So I started off by saying we are a marketplace for sneakers. We primarily are a marketplace for sneakers, but we recently launched apparel into there as well. So we started selling limited edition clothing. So for sneakers, we take a commission of 10%, and for apparel, we take a commission of 15%. Now, generally, it just depends on the ticket value of the item. Some sneakers are as low as 500 dirhams. Some sneakers are as high as 60,000 dirhams. But the fee is fixed only dependent on whether the item is a sneaker or a clothing item.
Yeah. And you said up to 60,000 dirhams. Is that
Yeah.
the most expensive, or what?
We've
is the
had
most
more expensive before. I think the most expensive was probably, the Nike Air Mags from Back to the Future.
Yeah.
That was about 150,000 dirhams.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot. But like I say, I mean, I think
who bought that? Someone we would know?
It was an avid collector from. He was based in America, and he couldn't find a pair in his size anyway. And I don't know the exact quantity, but I think there was something like 400 pieces made. So there's 400 in the world. So that's why the price is.
They're self-lacing as well.
They're
right?
self-lacing, yeah.
Okay, so
they have a whole charging pad. You put them there in the evening, and when you wake up, you can use them. It's like a phone.
Yeah, exactly. All right, and well, when you started the whole thing, what was your marketing strategy? What was, hey, we need to get this out to the people right now? How are we gonna do that?
Yeah. So first thing to keep in mind is that our target audience is a very young population. So our demographic age is between 18 and 40. Generally, people over 40 don't tend to buy from us too much. So what we had to do, our marketing strategy, what we decided was best is we need to find celebrities and influential people who resonated the best with our target audience. So if we're targeting very young people, we would not obviously target, beauty stars or, something along those lines, or car reviewers. We target rappers, singers, influencers, people that our younger audience is watching, following, and what they do plays a factor to determine whether our customers will buy or not. So we tap into the market of rappers, singers, songwriters, musicians, and we managed to get them on as brand endorsers. We've managed to get some of the most famous people in the world as brand endorsers. How did you do that? Well, that's a secret, right? That's a $1 million question. But no, at the end of the day, it's just connections. You know someone who knows someone who knows them, and these people, they like when a brand has core values that they match with, that they resonate with. And fortunately, a lot of the people that we've worked with do resonate with our brand and sync with it. And I think that's why it just made it a bit easier to connect with them and work with them.
All right, cool. And okay, who's the largest celebrity that you've collaborated with or bought a sneaker from?
So we've sold. This was a while ago. I wouldn't count it as part of the company, but I've sold to Drake and his team. So that was probably the biggest. But in terms of the company, we've worked with artists like Jason Derulo. We've worked with Post Malone. We've worked with Sway Lee, among countless others. But those are the three biggest names that come to mind.
And okay, so how was the experience with these celebrities? Are they like chill, or what was the whole conversation like?
I have to say, when you meet them, they're not a celebrity. At the end of the day, they're just a person, and they're fantastic people. When you meet them, they're actually they're very down to earth. They're very humble, very friendly. And when you meet them, you can just sit down and have a conversation with them. So I would say all my experiences to date have been very positive.
All right. And in terms of the company, did you guys have something slip by that was not authentic, or everything was in check the whole time?
So far, we haven't. We've definitely had fakes. We've definitely spotted out those fakes. But so far, we haven't had, as far as we know, one fake that has passed through our authentication. So for now, we're batting 100%.
100% success rate and verifying that.
Hopefully it'll continue. Yeah.
Do you guys do a legal action against the person who tried to sell the fake, or is it just denied and that's pretty much it? Or
so sometimes we do understand that sometimes the person might sell a fake without knowing. So we do give one or two free passes. But if we see a seller repeatedly continue to sell fakes, then we would take legal action, and we would, hold the counterfeit goods, and maybe turn it over to the authorities. But so far we haven't come to that stage. So far we've had one person that sent in as many as 7 fakes, and when we got to that stage, we just banned the seller from selling, and that was the end of that.
7 fakes in a row.
Yeah, he had some audacity, that guy.
And in terms of the value of the shoe, you mentioned that if it's a collaboration between someone specific, it could go up in value, it can make it rare. Other than that, is there any special things that make the shoe go rare? For instance, if it's a manufacturing error or something within that range?
Yeah, that could happen, not very often. The main factors that determine whether a sneaker will go up or down, or whether it's valuable or not, is number one is quantity. How many pieces did they release? Obviously, if there's 2 million people in the world that want a sneaker, and the retailer makes 2 million of those, the sneaker is going to go down in value. So the least quantity available, the better. Number two is obviously a collaboration with an influential person or brand. And the third factor at the end of the day would just be how nice that sneaker is. If it looks, quite horrible, at the end of the day, even if it's valuable or limited, it's not going to sell. So those are the 3 factors I would say that determine whether a sneaker go up or down.
And before the company itself, did you try to resell independently, like just buy from someone and just resell?
Yeah, I was reselling independently, individually for a while. I'd say about 4 years before I started.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm quite familiar with these sneaker resellers and the whole game.
And how would you? Because that's where I get lost a little bit. If you buy from someone for 1,000 dirhams, let's just say, and then you go and try to sell it for someone else for 1,200, how would you make sure that that person doesn't just go to the main source and get it for 200 dirhams cheaper? What is like the main goal? You understand what I mean? Like,
yeah. So at the end of the day, everyone wants to get it for that initial price of 1,000, for example, right? But also you have to keep in mind that the reality is not everyone can buy it for their price, because like I said, if there's 2 million people that want a specific sneaker and there's only 10,000 pairs, you're only going to get 10,000 people or less that are able to acquire it for that price, and the remainder will be forced to pay the premium.
Very cool. And okay, let's get into the business aspect of it and like the mindset part, right?
Yeah.
To begin something like this, I'm guessing it is quite a big burden on your mindset. It's harsh. You've got a lot of things that can go wrong, and I'm pretty sure a lot of things did go wrong, if I'm not mistaken. How do you continue? What was your mindset like?
So, when you start, you actually, even now, you're juggling about 1,000 things, every week. You got 100 things a day. You probably only get 30 of them done. You don't have time to worry about whether it's difficult or not, or whether you've taken losses or not. At the end of the day, you take more losses than wins, and that's the most important part. A loss is never a loss if you learn. So, yes, we do end up taking a lot of losses. Yes, it was very difficult in the beginning, but we persevered. We focused on the wins that we took, and we on growth and growth and growth, and eventually you realize that you have to take the rough with the smooth, and at the end of the day you do win.
Cool. And if I wanted to enter the sneaker business today, let's just say, okay, I'm now interested, I want to go in, I want to buy my first sneaker, resell it, what should I do? What's step number 1?
Step number 1 is, like we said in the beginning, identify which sneaker you want to resell, which sneaker you want to buy.
I'm guessing in a safe bet, I would go with Jordans.
We would go Jordan, exactly. That would be your safest bet. Secondly, identify how you're going to get that sneaker for retail, if you can. Nowadays, it's quite difficult to get a sneaker for retail, but you would try your best to identify the best way to do that. And then thirdly, you would need to find a platform or method to sell your sneaker. You could either go onto a marketplace like ours and sell it immediately. You could put it up on another marketplace where you'd have to deal with the buyer, independently. Or you could just have someone in mind that's ready to buy the sneaker. So I would say those are the 3 steps that you could take.
Okay. And on your social media, do you mainly try to promote the platform itself, or do you do the marketing of the sneaker on your platform, on your social media?
It's more the marketing of the sneaker, of the product, because the end means for the consumer is the same, whether he buys it through us via Instagram or WhatsApp or the platform. At the end of the day, he just wants the sneaker. The consumer just wants the sneaker. So we focus primarily on promoting the sneaker itself, the history behind it, the story behind it, the value, So yes, we focus more on the product than the marketplace.
So you're 20 years old, mashallah, right? How old did you start when you began
18.
that? 18. So it's been only 2 years.
It's been about 2 years, yeah.
And it's already the largest in the...
It's the largest marketplace in the Middle East.
Oh, amazing. Was there a competition or it was
There
it
was
like
competition. There still is competition. But so far in all aspects, in all realms, we've managed to beat the competition to become the largest marketplace for sneakers in the Middle East. But that's not our end goal. We're not stopping there. Like I said, we introduced a new line of categories. We introduced apparel. So that's limited edition clothing like Supreme, Palm Angels, essential stuff like that. So we do aim to become the biggest marketplace for apparel as well, which is a huge market, definitely tapped into, definitely people out there that already have the market share, but we plan to dominate and take over them.
All right. Okay, now we're going to talk about you, Adnan, all right?
Yeah.
You as an individual, what is your ultimate goal? Do you just want to make as much money as you can, or is there something that you want to achieve? What is your personal goal?
To me, life is about solving problems. So I will always have problems to solve, and I love solving problems. I don't have a set amount of money that I want to make or a set amount of businesses I want to run. I just want to have a positive impact on me, my business, people around me, the people that work for me. And at the end of the day, I'm never going to stop working. I love working as I'm sure you do as well.
Yeah.
That there's always work to be done. If you want to be an important person, you're going to have to keep working till the day you die. So at the end of the day, my main goal is just to work, build businesses that bring value to people, take care of people, and yeah, that's the goal.
That's the ultimate goal. Okay, amazing.
That's the ultimate goal.
And so again, when it comes to you, I'm gonna now dive a bit deeper. All right. Okay. Why have you ever dealt with any businesses in the US, or are you thinking of just dealing with the West in general, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, so we collaborate with some of the industry leaders in the West. At the end of the day, most of the leaders in the industry are based in the West, so whether that's US or sometimes EU as well. So we worked with the likes of Crab Protect. I don't know if you've heard of them. No. So they are the number one leading brand for sneaker accessories. So cleaning accessories, protective accessories, everything to do with sneakers they're into. So we host pop-up events and we host events like that, collaborating with these brands, and that also builds up reputation that we're working with the biggest in the world. So yes, we do work with some industries in the West, some companies in the West, but we mainly focus majority on the Middle East.
Because it's an untapped market, and that's where you can...
It's an untapped market, and we don't want to continue fueling this West craze. We want to start up a whole new venture here in the Middle East, and to do that, you'll have to work with Middle East partners, right, with Middle East startups.
Right. And do you feel like you're part of it, or maybe you're doing it unconsciously, but the fact that you are tapping only the Middle East countries and you're trying to build that here, in a sense, also devalues what's going on in Europe or what's going on in the West in general? You know how the situations are over there. Do you feel like if more people do that, then we can eventually become independent of these nations, and then you can just leave them do whatever they want to do, and we are, well, properly structured? Do you feel like that's a bigger picture that you're doing consciously, or is it just something that it's a byproduct?
You're talking about in the sneaker industry itself?
In general, in business in general, yeah.
I would say that, yes, in a way it is devaluing what the West is doing, but at the end of the day, just because you're empowering someone else doesn't mean you're devaluing someone else as well. So I do think that the Middle East is at a stage where it's booming. I do think that the West is declining, but I don't see why the two can't collaborate and just make one massive booming space. So yes, we are doing very important work. Yes, we are booming faster than the West is now. But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean that the West will just decline and end up into nothing.
Right. And with your dealings in the West, do you find that the craze that's going on over there affecting how you are able to conduct your business with those areas?
No, I can't say that it has. I'd say that we're still dealing. We don't deal specifically with the West, as I mentioned. We focus mainly in the Middle East, but we do focus on certain areas in the West that are very important, and we haven't seen any reason why it would stop us or make it difficult for us to deal with them.
Amazing. And again, if for people watching, right, uh, what would be your biggest tip if someone wants to become a entrepreneur in the future, do what you're doing, whatever business it may be in, just grow and become a successful, wealthy person? What should they do? What's like the mindset and everything?
Yeah, I'd say that if you're choosing the path, it's for the 1%. It's a very difficult path, and I think that you'd be naive to think that you could just go into entrepreneurship without any knowledge or at least the inclination to learn. I think that whatever market you choose to go in, you need to have an ability and inclination and the will to learn about that market before you go into it, whether that means taking an internship with someone who's in a position where you would want to be, who you would want to be like in 10 years or 20 years. Learn from them, learn from their experience, learn from their losses, and once you've reached a stage where you can actually picture yourself doing this full time, then you can actually start a business. And as I mentioned, most people say that life is about balance, and you have to take everything a bit easy. It's completely the opposite.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to do that, and if you're willing to make the sacrifices needed, then yes, you could potentially be successful in the field. But it needs to be a field that you're knowledgeable about. It needs to be a field that you have the inclination and the will to wake up every morning and dominate in, and that will can never decline. And if you're willing to do all of that and you're willing to make the right sacrifices, then entrepreneurship is for you.
Do you feel like they need to basically swallow their egos?
I would say actually the opposite. I would say that, for me and a lot of entrepreneurs that I look up to, their ego, it might sound egotistical because at the end of the day it is, but it fuels what they do. Because at the end of the day, entrepreneurs are the hardest working people on the planet.
I mean, like, okay, so when you're just beginning, right? A lot of people, from what I'm seeing, a lot of people will be like, "Hey, I want $2,000 to work with you or whatever, and that's all I'm gonna take." And they don't have any experience; they just started. And that person who they're demanding from could have a lot of connections, a lot of future prospects. So in that sense, they need to swallow their ego.
No, definitely.
They need to go and because a lot of people say, well, I'm not gonna go do that. Why should I do it? They expect to be able to charge or to make the same amount of money or demand the same things as someone who's already been in the industry for years.
Correct. You in that aspect, definitely you need to swallow it, and it's quite disheartening sometimes, especially when you're starting. To see, to swallow it, because it's one of the most difficult things to do, especially as a man, to swallow your ego and just take it down. But yes, when you're starting off, you have to. You don't see yourself. It might sound a bit lonely and strange, but you don't see yourself as a person anymore. You see yourself as an entity working to a means to an end. So yes, you would have to swallow your ego. In the beginning, it's very difficult. You're going to have to do things you don't want to do. You're going to have to make decisions that are very difficult to make. But that's what it's all about. Yeah,
and I feel like that's what people mostly are missing. They feel like it's all glamour, and that's...
Correct. People only see the 1%, the outcome, right? They don't see the 20 years behind it or the 10 years behind it. They don't see the efforts and the struggles made. You have no idea how much people have lost to get what they gained. And like I said, that's why you need to work with someone knowledgeable. I'm not talking about someone like me. I'm talking about someone, who has 20 years experience in the field. That's what I did, right? You need to focus and put yourself in a position of learning, because at the end of the day, you have to realize everyone is still learning. Even though we finish school, we're still a student. We're learning every day. And if you have that will to learn and the inclination to learn, then yes, you might have a chance.
Have you gone to university?
No.
You dropped out?
No. I finished school and then I started.
High school and then just same with me. What do you feel like? Did you have a plan before you decided to stop, or was it like I'm gonna risk it, I'm gonna see what happens?
Yeah, so I had a plan. Like I mentioned, this was at the stage where I decided that there was a need to fulfill, a gap to fill in the market for sneakers. And like I said, I was already reselling independently by myself. But when I left, then I realized that, this is something that I can do, and this is something that I want to do, and I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to put in all the effort. And I did, and here I am. But I think for anyone who's thinking of dropping out, I think your reason and intention behind it is very important. If you're dropping out purely for the reason that school is difficult, then entrepreneurship is definitely not for you.
It's more difficult.
I mean, school and university, the work ethic is a joke compared to what it takes to be an entrepreneur. When you're managing people, managing so much money, managing so much people, decision making, it's extremely difficult. And at the end of the day, you're working 24/7. Even when you sleep now, you're working, because you sleep to work, right? You sleep to rejuvenate yourself for the next day. So even sleep is work now.
Let me ask you something. Okay, it just came to mind. Have you ever dreamed of working, or like a product, or like an idea from a dream, or some sort of thing that way. Because I've experienced that multiple times, where I would go, all right, I need to rest, you know, I really want to work, but I need my rest, and then I would sleep, and I would actually dream about continuing my work. I would wake up and I would have already like worked a little bit, you know.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. And it's a completely real thing. I mean, I don't think you're the only person experienced. I've definitely experienced it. You know, where even in your sleep now you're working, you manage to put yourself into a state where you can actually live your life in your dreams. And it might sound a bit strange and a bit weird, but you know, when you're that focused and you're that determined to make something happen, it does happen.
Yeah, I feel like it's the same as getting that new like video game when you're at school, when you're like an 8-year-old, and you go to sleep and you wake up like at 6 a.m. naturally on your own.
Yeah, to play that game.
To play the game before you go to school. I feel like that's the exact same. That mindset or that feeling is lost throughout the years, and that is the exact same feeling which I feel everyone should strive for, and that's basically business and entrepreneurship. Whenever you have something that you really want to achieve, you're not gonna sleep, or when you do sleep, you're gonna wake up naturally early. Correct.
Yeah. You need to be so crazy about what you're doing that you're actually at the point of insanity. And I think that's when, you know, you start getting these feelings, like you said, where you just wake up naturally on instinct. And that's a very important part that determines success, because if you're not willing to put in the effort every waking minute, at the end of the day, you're not going to achieve what you set out to achieve, because there's someone out there who wants it more than you, and they'll get it instead of you.
Yeah, exactly. And all right, for bismillah. For you, if I were to come to you right now and I want to buy a sneaker, which one would you recommend me?
Right now, there's a sneaker called, we'll put a picture of it, the Nike SB Dunk Low Born and Raised.
All right.
It just dropped yesterday, and it's one of the nicest looking sneakers I've ever seen. I'm definitely going to pick up a pair for myself, and I think you should too.
What's the color on that?
It's
like?
blue and white.
Okay, I love blue and white.
Yeah.
What's the price, bro? It's the most important thing.
I think it's about 3,500 dirhams.
Okay, cool.
That's okay. For the Muslim millionaire, he can take it.
For the people out there. Amazing. So for people out there who are going to be now having their target as, okay, I want to be one of the 1%, they need to understand how the world works.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
What do you think they should know about the world?
I think that you have to understand that you are living among 8 billion other people, and there is no way to control that amount of people without a proper system in place. And you have to understand that there is a system in place that manages to control you, even if it's on some level. I think everyone is controlled. And I don't think that your end goal should be to overpower the system because the system is working, but I think your end goal should be to understand the system and to realize the role that you play in it as an individual, and use that platform and use that feeling as a propulsion into making a better version of yourself, to make your role actually valuable and worth something, and not just be, you know, another figure on a sheet.
Right. So you need to understand the rules of the game.
Yeah.
So that you can.
Yeah. I mean, you can't win a game if you don't know what game you're playing.
Exactly. You can't like find your tips and tricks or your little hacks here if you don't understand the basics of the game.
Correct. And I think the only way to do that is to, as I said, learn from someone who's experienced. I mean, there are people out there in this world who've achieved what you want to achieve and understand the game more than you'd ever think to know. And the best thing to do would be to learn from them. I think that's the number one life hack. That's the number one shortcut. And I'm not one for shortcuts. I'm not one to, you know, find the easy route. But I think that's the best and most efficient and most proficient way to do that.
Right. And do you think the top people, the people who have the system in place, do they want anyone to become successful, become wealthy, or is it just, hey, keep them as poor as possible, keep them as low as possible so that they are always in need of us?
I think the system is trying to keep everyone as docile as possible. I wouldn't say poor. I would say, you know, docile, lenient. They just want them to listen and obey. And I think
have no morals.
Have no morals. And I think, you know, they don't want the ideal power unit. So they've set in place certain measures to make sure that not everyone becomes successful. And I think the people that do have proven themselves to some level, not only to themselves, but to, you know, whatever entity we're talking about. And I think that, you know, that's what makes it even more challenging and exciting, is that the fact that the only way to unmask the whole thing is to prove yourself and work as hard as you can and beat the obstacles that they've set in place.
And even if you do become successful, let's say you become wealthy and stuff, you are still gonna get, or they're gonna attempt to buy you out, or they're gonna attempt to keep you. Oh, one of us. You're now wealthy. You have a voice. You become now one of us, right? So I feel like the end goal, and let me know if that's something that you also want to keep in mind for yourself, to have fuck you money.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, hey, you want me to do that? No, thanks. I'm good. So is that something that you're trying to also reach, or? But well, we're in Dubai, so we don't actually really follow that system, right?
Correct. I don't think, we in the level as the West, as people are in America or EU or stuff like that. I think that, we are living a bit differently. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself the question, what is money? What is cash, right? How much are you worth? Is that really a valuable question? You're basically asking someone, how much of the government's printed paper do I have? And at the end of the day, that's not value. Value is who you are as a man, what values you have, what values you hold, what values you fight for. Who are you as a person? Who are you in terms of the people you take care of, the people you provide, the jobs you create? And I think that's what determines, whether it's here or in the West, what type of man you are.
Right. And do you think the West is trying to make men not men anymore?
Yes, I definitely say that. I mean, you don't have to talk about, we don't even know who men and women are anymore in the West, right? So, I mean, to ask the question is absurd. Obviously, they're trying to...
Okay, Adnan. What is a woman?
A woman, I would say, is an adult female. That's how I would say.
How dare you, man? How dare you? I can be a woman if I want to.
It's this level of where we can just make jokes about it. It's so silly. It's absolutely ridiculous that now we have to question whether someone is a man or woman anymore. And I think, like I said, it's just people trying to purport that idea of you're not a man anymore, you're not a woman anymore, you are whatever you are. And that's fine, because as I mentioned, as long as, whatever you are is docile and lenient and accepts, then it doesn't really matter what you are. You can call yourself an attack helicopter for that's what the system is trying to tell you. It doesn't matter what you call yourself. If you guys are fighting about this, we have more time to actually conquer the world. While you guys are fighting over petty little things like whether I'm a man or woman or whatever I am, we are taking over the world, and we are doing things valuable, and we are, making a world better for ourselves while you're making a world worse for yourselves.
All right. Okay, let me ask, this might be controversial. Have you ever, in your business, seen a successful person who is into all this propaganda?
No, I've never seen anyone.
Right. Every successful person, so what you're saying, every successful person recognizes that this is bullshit and avoids it and just doesn't stand with it.
As far as I've seen, yes.
Right. So it's basically all a distraction, right?
Correct.
It's all something to let them play on their little playground while the big men are in the big tables making deals.
Yeah, it's definitely a distraction. It's trying to pull you away from the main value and the main goal of life. And, I think the main attack on these types of systems and these types of people is religion, whether that religion is Islam, Christianity. I think if you go back to basic Judeo-Christian values or Islamic values, it'll fight all of this. I mean, right. It's a one-stop shop to fight all of these claims that they're making and all of this, whatever they're trying to purport on you. And, so it's as simple as going back to what people 2,000 years ago were doing when they were less advanced and less civilized. They already had the answers which you are fighting for. So
Adnan, you're telling me that if a man becomes a man and a woman is a woman, then life is better?
That's the way life should be.
How dare you, man? This is such a savage, barbaric claim.
So it is. And nowadays, if you say that in certain countries, you might get arrested. It's to the point of insanity now.
Right. Have you seen what happened in France?
What? Recently?
So when they banned the
hijab.
When they banned the abayas and loose-wear, and now they have the bed bugs crisis, and they're telling people wear baggy clothes and cover up.
Correct. It's hypocrisy, and at the end of the day, like I say, if you look at it from their point of view, it makes total sense. Let these people fight over petty things, like what gender they are and what they should do and who they should follow. As long as they're docile and they're listening to us, and when we tell them to go inside, they go inside, and we tell them to come out, they come out. All the better for us. So from their point of view, it's working.
But where I get a bit confused is if they keep going that route, surely at a certain point there is not going to be a proper civilization to rule. So all you want is power, so you keep distracting them. But at a certain point, they're going to be so docile and lenient, then they're not even human beings anymore. So you have nothing to control.
But that's the outcome, right? The outcome is to put them to the lowest level, or put people to the lowest level where they have both docileness and they have some sort of free will. But the docileness is outplaying the free will completely. Yeah. It's a 90-10 situation. And that's the ideal version that people want you to get to. The whatever person we're talking about wants you to get to. And at the end of the day, you have to realize that from their point of view, this all makes sense. They're not necessarily evil, or not necessarily, out with harmful intentions. But at the end of the day, it's a world of 8 billion people. Right. You need some sort of control system in place. But that doesn't mean you should just stop and listen to whatever they say. It means you should try your best to understand and become a man of value so that you can actually understand and have a role to play in getting people to where they should be.
Right. And I feel as well with elections or revolutions, or when they want to do anything left, right, and center, all these little things that are happening, I feel like they're all useless. Because it's not really like the president is the one who's in power, and if you find out who's above him, he's not really in power. And I feel like it's a system that has been built over thousands of years that you don't even know who's at the top anymore. So if you don't know who's in the top, you can never remove them, right? So correct. The best thing for anybody to do, I feel like, is just understand the system that you're in, play the game properly. Once you have fuck your money, just leave and stay out of the grid.
Correct. And I think the main goal, it's very easy for most people to just say, okay, I have money, whether they work for it or not, and just drop out the system. But you need to be able to be in a position and a man of value where you can help other people realize what they've become. I mean, there's amazing people out there who, no matter how many times they've been cancelled or shut down, they're still trying to purport the idea that there is a system in place, realize what the system is, understand the game you're playing, and then get better. Yeah. And if anything, it serves as some sort of motivation for younger men to wake up every day and fight against something, to get better and better themselves and become the best version of themselves.
Exactly. All right, and okay, if someone was to now start their journey, what I feel like is every single time someone does try to start making money, if they do live in the West, it becomes 10 times harder. For instance, what happened to me was this. I started making independent money in the Netherlands. I did not go to school there, did not work there. Once I started making independent money, they realized where I was living, and they started asking questions. Where is the money coming from? What is all of that? Where is the left, right, and center? It's just a lot of questions. Now, I've done everything legally. I don't pay taxes there. Or like very, very minimal taxes, because I've done things in a logistical way. I understood how everything works. I made it in a logistical way. They've seen that, right? And they don't like it.
Right.
They started sending people to my house.
Right.
Knocking on my door, telling me, oh, you should go to school, we'll give you a job, we'll give you this. Just anything to try to suck me in, right? When I didn't budge, I kid you not, I started seeing random taxes pop up. Like random bills that I had no idea even existed, and they were very unjustified,
Right.
And I can't be bothered spending my time fighting them, because if it would take me 5 hours to fight a €1,000 bill, well, I could focus 5 hours and make 3,000. All right, so I can't be bothered. But at a certain point, I was like, okay, I'm out of here. All right. So, do you think someone can become independently successful living in a Western country throughout, or is it better to just reach a certain point and then leave and come to, for instance, Dubai or Saudi or wherever?
Yeah, I think countries like Dubai and Saudi are very nice to live in for the fact, not only the fact that it's a very safe place to live in, but the fact that it's tax-free. You don't have anyone worrying about where you get your money from or what you're spending your money on. And in the West, you definitely do have people like that. So it is a lot more difficult. But again, there's a lot more opportunity in the West that you don't get here in certain industries, whatever that industries may be. So if you are in the West and you're already making money in the West, there's no reason why you should come here until you settle. But if you're looking to start out, I would say definitely start off somewhere in the Middle East, somewhere where you can determine how you get your money, what you spend your money on, and you don't have anyone butting into your finances.
You know what I realized? I realized that the West, or at least I'll speak for the Netherlands itself, it's a socialist country.
Right.
Right. And socialism, in essence, it means everyone gets the same amount of opportunity, funds, everything, right?
Right.
And that was especially true when I realized how much my house cleaner makes, the cleaner in the house. So he comes, cleans the house for about 300 euros.
Okay.
Right? For the entire house.
Minimum wage.
Right. Yeah, but that
Right.
300 euros per house, right?
Right.
That means that if he cleans 10 houses a month,
Yeah.
he makes 3,000
Yeah.
euros. You know also who makes 3,000 euros in the Netherlands? A lawyer.
Right.
Right? So a lawyer makes as much as a house cleaner, makes as much as a chef, makes as much as everybody else. So it's socialism. And in a sense, everybody gets the same equal thing, right? So I've realized that, hey, if you want to stick to 9 to 5, feel free, live in the West, because the minimum wage there is better.
Yeah.
They give you everything. But if you want opportunity and you want to risk it and you want to play the big boys game and you want to actually reach somewhere, then there is not the place for that. It's definitely not. Once you start making a bit more than they like, they're gonna start asking questions, and then it's gonna be 10 times harder. You know that over there, even if you have a $10 million and you try to buy a house, and you didn't do it the way they like, you didn't make the money the way they like, they're not gonna let you get a house.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're gonna tell you, well, where did the money come from? Well, bring me papers. Oh, well, what do you do exactly? Oh, did you pay? It's just a bunch of stuff. Unless you made it by saving up money, getting a loan from the bank, and going into riba and a million things,
Right.
they're not gonna let you get anything.
Interesting. And that's another example of how governments purport their own ideas onto you. And if you don't conform to those ideas, then, you'll be penalized.
Yeah.
It's quite funny. Yeah, obviously we don't have that in the Middle East, which is a great, fantastic thing. If you're living here, you're living a very wonderful life, especially if you're earning right, or if you come here with the financial means to be successful. I think that, yes, if you are working a 9 to 5, there's no reason to come to the Middle East.
How was South Africa though?
South Africa, at the end of the day, the government is run by people.
Right.
So if you know the right people, then you'll be fine. South Africa is growing. We're not as great as we were before, but if you want to live there and you want to start a business there, there's still a massive opportunity.
I heard there was a bit unsafe in Cape Town. Is that true? Or is
South Africa is one of the most dangerous countries in the world. I would not recommend anyone to visit South Africa without taking the proper precautions, especially where I'm from. I think it has one of the highest crime rates, murder rates, burglary.
Have you seen something?
I've witnessed. I've been in multiple crimes.
Talk to me, man. What have you seen?
But it, I don't want to delve too much into it, but it's a very dangerous country. But I think if you're going there for holiday, like if you're going to Cape Town or you're going to the Kruger Park, it's amazing. It's definitely something you should see. I'd say it's the most beautiful country in the world, South Africa. You should definitely visit there, plan a visit there. Just make sure you take the proper precautions, because people aren't lying when they say, they're not lying when they're saying it's unsafe.
It's unsafe, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I think that's pretty much it. Well, I appreciate you, man, coming on so much.
Pleasure.
Is there anything you would like to add for everybody watching at home? Any last tips, anything within that range?
No, I would just say that, what we've talked about today is an example of two people who have defied the means and who are willing to work beyond what society sets for them. They're willing to work every single day, every single night. And if you're willing to do that too, there's no reason why anyone can't succeed. As long as you're doing something you love, you have the inclination in the will to learn, there's no reason why you can't achieve what you set out to achieve.
Amazing. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure having you.
Pleasure.
See you guys next time.